Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Tuesday episode of the Renovation and Outdoor Living Show. Good to see you all. Please do jump in on the comments section. We can have a bit of a chat today. In Auckland, well, us Aucklanders are now 5 days away from the end of level 3 lockdown, thank goodness. Meanwhile, Australia, yesterday, the reason why I mentioned Australia, one of our guests today is coming live from Australia. At the end of yesterday, 116 cases, the lowest in Victoria for more than 7 weeks. So they seem to be turning a corner there. Queensland, no new cases today. Internationally, numbers of new cases have been falling for the last 4. This is looking on Worldometer, which is a great website if you want to keep across how it's going internationally. It looks as though numbers have been falling. New cases have been falling for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and also the number of deaths as well is beginning to not tail off, but is beginning to start falling on a weekly basis. So good news all around. So let's have a look at what Friday was all about. We were on Father's Day. That was our theme on Friday. And we started off by talking to Dylan Myers from Makita. He's our tool man who always brings us some exciting tools. He introduced us to the top 5 tools for dads on Father's Day. The first was a lawnmower, an electric lawnmower. No wires, just the normal Makita battery straight in. Then you went from there to the brushless blower and vacuum system, which is awesome. Then we looked at the 14-inch chainsaw, electric chainsaw, and the cordless inflator. The chainsaw is really cool, and it's exactly like a chainsaw in every way except for the fact it's battery operated rather than powered by fuel. Then we looked at a cordless inflator to inflate your tires and your toys. And finally, we finished off with what every man cave or dad should have, and that's a cordless Bluetooth job site radio, this awesome, big, robust, heavy, weatherproof radio, again, operated with the Makita battery. Dylan also gave us a cordless blower kit, which we're going to give away later on in the show. Well, we're not going to give it. I'm going to tell you later on how you can win it. We'll give it away next week. But if you're interested in getting hold of that cordless blower, we've given one away about a couple of months ago, and it was hugely popular. We've got another one which we'll tell you about later. We then spoke to Robert Knight. He's a PDL home solutions consultant from Schneider Electric, and he told us all about smart tech, in particular electrical plugs and light switches that you can now quickly adapt with this very, very clever bit of gadgetry which you can install behind the switch or behind the plug, and it automates it. Basically, it connects it by Bluetooth to your phone, so you can sit anywhere in your house and operate all the switches and the plugs all from one phone. Awesome piece of kit. And Robert also gave us a brilliant prize, which I'll tell you about in a few minutes' time. So today we're going to go outdoors. Spring is under a week away here in New Zealand, so we're looking at outdoor living. Okay, it's a good time to focus on the garden and how we hope to spend our time in the summer. We're going to be looking at 2 elements. One is trees, so something to do with the natural environment, and the other is the furniture which we can sit on to enjoy it. First of all, we're going to talk about native trees. Okay, why, which ones, when we should be planting, etc. So we've turned to Nicola Vague from Zones Landscaping in Tauranga, one of our regular outdoor experts now. And Nicola is here with all we need to know, I hope, about native trees. Nicola, good to see you. I hope how's your weather looking over on the east there?
Yeah, it's lovely. The sun's shining at the moment, but it's a bit windy, and we've had some pretty impressive showers today. So, but no, all good. All good. We're smiling.
Sounds like very interesting sort of pre-spring weather, very typical. Now let's talk about native trees. Why? Why is it important that we should plant them, or why do we want to plant them?
So yeah, native trees, our New Zealand native trees are fantastic for our garden because they're adapted to our climate. They're from here, so when you go to look at a tree that's going to perform well, that's one of them. They're also an important food source for our native wildlife, and in particular birds. So they provide especially things like kowhai. You'll see at the moment we've got a kowhai outside our house, and the tuis are just going crazy. So really important to think about the wildlife and bird life around your property as well. They also, we have a lot of native trees that are actually, they're beautiful trees, and they might not necessarily have the blooms or the foliage colours that you get from some of the deciduous exotic species, but we have some striking foliage trees that we have around that we can use. So yeah, they're a great addition.
Yeah, and it's all about the character, isn't it, of not only our
Yeah.
backyard, but our entire environment, isn't it? I mean, it would
Yeah.
be awful if we just planted, imports and So I'm with you in a big way. I need though to know about what types of trees, because let's say it is a new section, or let's say you're redeveloping your backyard. Where do you start when you think about what native trees to use?
So there's a lot of native trees that you can select from that are grown commercially in nurseries. One of the biggest considerations is to look at how big that tree is going to grow in the future. So regardless of whether you've always wanted a pohutukawa in your property, if your property is not big enough, then you really need to think about that. And there are other options and cultivars being developed all the time. But things like the picture that was just up there, titokis are a great tree for smaller properties. They can be well pruned. They're a medium growing tree, so not too big in the end once they're fully established. Other things are pukas. You'll see them often. They've got a big green, lush leaf. They can be used in gardens around and not too fussy in terms of conditions. So titokis again are very, they can be used in a wide range of conditions. Our native cabbage tree, fantastic as well. So one of those more structural plants. And we not only have the standard cabbage, but there's a huge number of varieties of those available now as well. So those are probably some of the three popular ones. I also love using our Nikau palms.
Here we are. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. So those are our standard cabbage trees, and typically their habitat is from a sort of a marshy wetland environment. So they partner up really well with the flax and the kahikatea, which is a very large growing tree. So if you think about that, you think about wet conditions, they're going to like it if it's wet. But they are adaptable to a wide range of.
Yeah, so you don't really want to just launch straight out there and pick out the most classic natives you can think of, like your Kotura and your Kauri, because let's be honest, percent of us now probably can't. Well, certainly not in the city, not in urban environments.
Yeah, so I have seen kauris planted as street trees, so which is they're sort of out of their natural habitat. But I definitely agree, if you can get a tree in somewhere, then plant it, but it has to be the right tree for the right place. And if you've got a big rural property, or at least a property with a bit of room, certainly those larger canopy species are something you should definitely be thinking about. But it's those other smaller amenity trees that are mostly found now as our properties become smaller. Yeah.
And one thing which a lot of people will plant trees for is, I guess, apart from just the aesthetic, is the privacy as well. And you mentioned just now how easy it is when you were talking about the titoki, about how easy it is to keep it pruned back, to keep it pruned back, to be able to shape it.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, titokis are fantastic for that. I use them in a range of ways. So they can be as a sort of a larger backdrop tree, or they can be what you call pleach. So you'll see in this photo, these are standardized trees coming out of a nursery. And if you imagine in a few years, you could actually train that trunk to be clean, and then the hedging is sort of at an upper level. So if you've got a fence, you can have the greenery at a higher level to give you that added privacy. And they're fantastic. They're very prunable. Like I say, they have a relatively good growth rate, but they don't get too big. So they're a great amenity tree for privacy. Yeah. We also have our pittosporums and stuff like that as well, which we see still.
And the Griselinea, it seems to be really popular around where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, so Griselinea hedges have gone, they're, I suppose, viral around everyone's properties now because they are a good performer. There's two main varieties of those. There's the smaller leaf, which is the littoralis, and there's the lucida, which is a larger leaf shrub. So there's sort of a what I would call a shrub/tree. Certainly the lucida grows to a larger size and can be really useful in a subtropical palette of plants. But one thing to watch out for is you will see every now and then, especially in drought conditions, you'll be driving along and see someone's hedge and there'll be two plants which are just killed over, and they may have been there for 10 years or so, but so they can sometimes be susceptible to dry conditions.
What plant was that? That wasn't the Griselinea.
That was the Griselinea.
Because I thought they were pretty hardy. So you've got to be a little.
They are pretty hardy.
you have to be careful with I mean, do they take a lot of care when you first plant them, and do you have to keep on looking after them?
Again, it's right plant, right place.
Yeah.
So they just, if like anything, if they get too dry, they just don't like it. So that's what I'm saying. Over these last few summers where we've had water restrictions and stuff like that, even well-established trees have or shrubs have been failing. So.
Yeah, so let's just go back to the small properties. You mentioned the cabbage trees and the totoki. We've talked about them a little bit. Is there anything else you'd recommend?
Yeah, I love, for a bit of structural interest, the lancewood. So they're the trees you get, and they're sort of like a very pyramidal shape, and they're a divaricating tree. So when they're young, they have these sort of spear-shaped leaves that sort of hang down in a teepee sort of form from the trunk. And when they're older, they turn into almost like a Dr. Seuss type tree. So not something that you'd use for a say a large shade tree or something, but they can definitely provide interest in the garden. And of course the Nikau palms. I absolutely love Nikau's. I think they're fantastic for providing a sort of a New Zealand feel. They're very iconic in terms of our bushland and as a sculptural plant. Yeah.
Are they the ones which shed a lot?
They do they shed a lot? I mean, they're a palm, so as they grow up, their leaves do come out, but they're very. I would say they're one of the more tidier palms.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's all I need to know. I'll put those on my list, because there are some palms in our garden which just cause mayhem, and I spend my life picking up the.
Those are our native Nikau. So they have this great striped trunk. So there's a few varieties of them that you can get where they've been sourced from like the Chatham Islands and places like that, where they're a little bit more hardy to wind. So our naturally occurring Nikau's are forest trees, and so you'll see them. They develop under the protection of those canopy species when they're young, and then as they sort of harden up, they sort of reach for the light, and you can see them popping up above the canopy. But when they're little, they need that bit of protection. But certainly some of the varieties from the Pitt Islands and the Chathams are a little bit more robust, and so I tend to use those in garden situations where the conditions are a little bit harder.
That doesn't mean you have to go to the Pitt Islands to actually get these, though.
No.
I'll talk to you about where we get them in a moment, but before we get there, it's probably a good idea to talk about. I mean, I mentioned the fact spring's a week away. Officially, the beginning of spring is the 1st of September next week.
Yeah.
So so the reason why we're talking to you now is because this is the time.
Yes, definitely. So, and things are a little bit weird here at the moment. Like we've had a couple of really hard frosts, which have sort of pushed that sort of planting season out a little bit. But yes, we're certainly at that sort of optimum time of getting plants in the ground before the real heat of summer hits. So getting plants sourced and in the ground now is a good thing to do before we really dry out.
So this is the time.
The soil's warming up, and it's it's a good time for plants to they start getting their spring flush on.
And to be honest, we're owed an awful lot of rainfall, so it's probably going to bucket down for the next 6 weeks. So probably not. Let's talk about the sourcing then, because you mentioned that you like to get slightly hardier plants from maybe the Pitt Islands. But seriously, what is this about? Is it about going to the local reserve and hoping no one sees you digging up a cutting or something, or do?
Hopefully not, Rawdon.
I'd never dream of that.
We've got some fantastic native nurseries around New Zealand. And regionally, what these nurseries do is they do a thing called eco-sourcing. So they have the ability to go in and source stock seed from bush areas that are regionally appropriate. So say you lived in the Bay of Plenty, we have a nursery called Naturally Native, and they will eco-source plant stock from around the area. Similar would happen in Auckland, similar would happen in Christchurch, say. Because regionally, even though these are all the same species, they have adapted over the years to those different conditions. So say a cabbage tree in Auckland has to put up with more of a humid conditions, whereas one growing in Christchurch has a lot different requirements. And so if you're the reason for eco-sourcing is not only to keep that biodiversity pure, or that, you know, the stock of plants pure. It's also you're using the plants that you're going to have the best success with. If they're already genetically, you know, working to survive in those conditions, then those are the plants that you should go for.
That's brilliant. That's good advice, isn't it? So do your standard sort of and I'm thinking more in Auckland here, your standard urban nurseries, are you best to try and find a specialist native nursery?
I think it really depends. Your local nurseries are a great place to go and get inspiration, and they often have fantastic quality stock. I think if you're doing a big project, a lot of the native nurseries, they are really set up for those people who are doing bulk planting. Or if you really want to make sure that eco-sourcing is something that is important for you, then, you know, those nurseries are great. And especially nurseries who specialise in natives. You can see probably a wider range of what's available, rather than the commercial nurseries who are showing sort of, you know, just the few species that sell well, or are really go-to plants for the bulk of their clients. But that's, you know, I can't speak for them. There might be the amazing nurseries out who are local nurseries who are doing a good range as well. So.
Yeah, Nicola, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of an insight. The bottom line is, now's the time. Get out there,
yes,
and buy some native trees and make your garden look incredible. Because in a few weeks, it won't be long before you actually see the difference.
Yeah.
Also,
and if you need help, get it, because there's nothing worse than having to cut a tree down in 10 years because you put it in the wrong place. So.
Yeah, and so people can talk to people like you, or I mean the nursery staff on their
nurseries. Yep, great. Yeah.
If there are any questions, then we'll send them your way, Nicola. We'll keep you busy over the weekend. That's Nicola Vague there, Zones in Tauranga. There's the website at the bottom, www.zones.co.nz if you want to try and get hold of Nicola or one of the other Zones owners in your local area. Good to see you. Now, from plants to outdoor furniture, or more specifically, not just the furniture, but how we choose it. What's the right sort of furniture? How you know? Because I guess, you know, the days of a few plastic chairs sitting around or deck chairs, as is in our garden, have sort of passed, and there's some pretty smart options nowadays. None smarter than from King Living. Now, King Living, we're going to talk now to David Hardwick, who's the head of products at King Living. Now, David's had an interest in furniture design since he was very young. He did a Bachelor of Design degree. He's worked at numerous Australian retail brands designing and developing products. He's been recognised with awards. He's been exhibited in Australia and London. And so, David, good to see you. Thanks very much, by the way, for joining us from Sydney today. Really good that, although that you're actually able to sit outside. None of us are going to risk it here in New Zealand because there's so much sporadic rain about. But I'm just before we start talking about your particular designs and the range which King Living sells, where do you get your inspiration from when it comes to? I mean, I just mentioned the fact you've got award-winning designs under your belt. Do you have one source of inspiration?
No, look, inspiration comes from everywhere, and it's every day of your life. I think when you work with furniture, it's something that you're very familiar with, whether you're working with it or not. And I think because we're constantly surrounded, we're touching, we're sitting, we're observing how people interact with furniture constantly. So it's all of these different inputs that are coming in, and we've got a really great design team with a good amount of experience. So we're getting ideas and inspiration from everywhere, really.
Do you, apart from the fact that was that a cup of tea you've just dropped on the patio there? Was that on your end or was that on my end? I don't know.
No, it's just lunchtime here in the courtyard at work, so there's a bit of activity around.
Oh, it's plate smashing Tuesday, isn't it? Hey, is there a difference though, the way you approach outdoor furniture to indoor furniture?
Yeah, look, outdoor just certainly has a lot more considerations that need to be taken into account in the designing process in terms of material selection, how furniture is used, how versatile it can be, how it can be reconfigured. Because I think with outdoor entertaining, there's a much greater level of variety. Whether you're having an intimate setting, you've got your parents over, or you've got the large family over, and you need to sort of change your space or change your the way things are laid out to sort of facilitate those different size groups.
Yeah, or whether you just have an idyllic life like this family here does in their outdoor. So that's amazing. That looks like an indoor sofa. but it's obviously been designed for the outdoors. And I think this is I think this is the big transition, isn't it, in lifestyles? Is that I mentioned the fact we've got a few, a few deck chairs and some wooden furniture which we've had for 15 years sitting outside. And I go around and maybe we get a beanbag, and that's when we think we're getting exciting. But that furniture we just saw there, that could be in place in a beautiful designer home.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is, and it's just been adapted for an outdoor setting. But I mean, I think architecturally the trend has been that there's a sort of, we're reducing that division between indoor and outdoor spaces, and they're almost becoming a one space that sort of breathes and expands and contracts as your life changes. But it's what I think the difference with king furniture is, and I think usually in the past you sort of had to make compromises when you go to outdoor furniture. It's sort of built much more sturdily. It's not as comfortable. It's sort of quite cumbersome a lot of the time. But what we've put a lot of attention to is trying to bring that same level of indoor comfort and style and sophistication to the outdoor world as well, but then tweak it to make sure that it really suits how people use their outdoor spaces.
Yeah. So, what do we need to consider before we make the choice? I mean, you've got a massive range, but not all of it's going to suit each person.
No, we've introduced a lot of new products this year. I think the focus on entertaining at home has never been greater than it is now in these sort of unfortunate times. So we put a lot of focus on how we can make people's lives a little bit more enjoyable when they're entertaining at home, and provide more options for different spaces as well. But really, I think it comes down to material choice. You want materials that are going to last. They've been tried and tested. They've got to have a little bit of gravity to them as well, because obviously in an outdoor space you don't want things blowing away or easily moved around. But then it's also about that comfort and also the versatility of the furniture. So all of our furniture can be very easily changed in configuration to suit different spaces or the amount of people you're entertaining.
It's a challenge, that one, isn't it? Because the comfort factor, I would have thought now. I mean, you've talked about versatility, and I want to ask you about looking after furniture which is living outside a lot of the time, but the comfort factor is a real priority now, and that's probably one of the biggest changes.
Yeah, absolutely, because you can spend a lot of time outdoors, and there's no reason that you should be uncomfortable. So we put a lot of effort into adapting the technology that we've developed over many decades with our indoor furniture, which is superbly comfortable, and just sort of changing materials. But you also have to look at how water affects the furniture and how it can dissipate and not get inside the furniture. So it is, even after a heavy downpour, you can whip a cover off and sit in your sofa, and it's nice and dry and ready to use.
And that's the key here. Particularly, I mean, I know you guys in Sydney, you never get any rain. I mean, I've watched Neighbours for 10 years, it never rained. But trust me, in Auckland, we get a little bit. So how weatherproof are your cushions and your soft furnishings? I mean, you just mentioned that. Is it a case that as soon as there's been downpour, whip the covers off and dry them out, or can you leave them there?
No, you can leave it as it is. What we've developed with Sunbrella, which is a brand sort of synonymous with outdoor performance in terms of fabrics, and we've worked with them to develop our own waterproof fabric. So the cushions and all of the upholstery is completely waterproof, which means rain doesn't get inside at all. And all of the seams are sealed on the inside, so very much like sort of mountaineering apparel, so that you won't get any of that water or wind coming through into the inside of the cushion where mold can grow. So that's really important. And I think the other thing that we've really worked a lot on is to maintain that same level of comfort, because when you create a completely waterproof membrane, it traps the air, which makes it very uncomfortable. It's sort of like sitting on a very hard balloon. But we've developed these integrated air panels, so it lets the air escape very slowly, so you still get that beautiful sinking comfort that you would with indoor furniture, but it still remains completely dry inside.
That's very cool, isn't it? But you wouldn't want to leave your cushions out. You could leave them out the whole time?
It's much like a car. If you leave your car on the street, you're going to have to wash it much more regularly. The Juco is sort of going to perish a little bit more quickly than if it was a garage. So we've developed these very lightweight weather covers that are really quick and easy to pull over your setting, and that's going to prolong the life of your furniture dramatically, but also reduce the amount of sort of maintenance and care that you would need to do.
So that's brilliant, isn't it? Because the big, and genuinely, this is probably why we haven't gone and spent the outlay on the outdoor furniture which we wanted to, because I don't want to have to spend. I don't want to have to store the cushions, basically take up a room of the house, storing the cushions in the times we're not using the furniture. But this is a different approach. You're saying actually cover what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. The main thing is we got a lot of feedback from customers with those sort of concerns. So we worked hard on developing very simple and easy covers that you can pull over the furniture, which are not too expensive as well, because people you're already spending a lot on the furniture. But it's worth that a little bit more of an investment to cover the furniture up. And but the ease of use is absolutely key, because if it's cumbersome to use, then people aren't going to put them on, and their furniture won't last as long.
And actually, this comes into you mentioned the weight thing. You know, you need something which is heavy enough that the wind isn't going to blow it into the pool, but at the same time, you need something which is relatively light, so it is easily moved. Would you say, or on the whole, do you think people put their furnishing outside and then just leave it in the one place, particularly if they don't actually have to move the cushions inside?
Oh, well, look, our furniture is made to be versatile and reconfigurable, and we put a lot of effort into making that, giving it that ability. So we wanted to sort of strike the right balance between something that's not going to get blown away easily, but can also be easily moved and changed as you see fit. And dining chairs, obviously, you're getting in and out of, so they can't be too heavy. But we've also got to consider even all the cushions and how they're attached. So we put press studs onto all of our things, so they're easily attached to the frame, that then can be removed if you do want to take them in and clean them.
That's a good point, isn't it? How easy is it to clean? Is it a case of shoving it in the wash, or do you have special cleaning products?
Well, with these fabrics and materials, it's simply just hosing the furniture down occasionally. Obviously, if you've got heavy foliage around your area and there's lots of leaves dropping, that's going to require a little bit more work. But the Sunbrella fabrics actually have all of the pigment infused into the fabric so that they won't fade in the sunlight. And you can also use a very light bleach solution. So for those more stubborn stains, you can use that bleach to bring it back, and it won't affect the color of the fabric at all. It's quite remarkable.
It sounds to me, from a furniture designer's perspective, actually outdoor furniture is quite an interesting one, because it adds a whole different layer of challenge when you're actually having to worry about elements. What about the cost, though? Because I think probably, there is a vast array of what you can pay for outdoor furniture. A lot of people, for a few $100, you can get yourself a sofa with, with a table and extra add-ons, but it's not going to last, is it?
No, that's the thing. And I think we did see like a lot of that furniture hitting the market in recent years. And I've noticed this year, a lot of the people's prices have gone up, because I think consumers aren't happy with that. They don't want a sofa that's going to last a season, that's going to end up on the side of the road for the next council cleanup. And very much at King, we're about longevity and enduring performance, and we make our furniture to last and be adaptable, so it can change with your lifestyle as it grows, as it sort of changes through the years as well. So we want to make sure that furniture is going to last and it's worth the investment. But we're definitely seeing a bit of a trend for consumers wanting to spend that little bit more for a product that's going to last a hell of a lot longer. It's a value equation which I think is working for people.
Because I know you've got a showroom here in Auckland. There's one not far from us, which is well, I was surprised you were sitting outside in the sunshine, but then I realised you're in Sydney.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are you talking? If you want to get yourself a decent, let's say 3-seater sofa to start with, okay, what would that cost you?
Look, our sort of entry price points are key little balcony sort of settings. So you get 2 armchairs and a 2-seater sofa for $24.90. Sorry, it's $19.90 in Australia, and I think New Zealand it may be a little bit more expensive because of the taxes there. But so it starts at a very economical price, and then we've got a range of furniture that can go up to $7,000 depending on the size and space you want to fill.
Yeah, so it's not completely ridiculous, is it, to get into that sort of environment? As you say, you're going to get your money's worth, though. I think with one of those, and this is why I just genuinely haven't invested in the outdoor furniture, because I haven't wanted to waste money on something which is going to break, or that I'm going to have to spend half my life shifting around or storing in the spare room. So, yep. So King Living, you've ticked a lot of my boxes today.
That's great.
I know, really interesting stuff to talk to you about. Thanks so much for that, David. Really interesting. Good luck. I hope that all goes well for you guys over there, and awesome. We'll look forward to seeing some more designs coming out of the magic that King Living provides.
Thanks, Rawdon. Yeah, really great. And good luck in New Zealand as well. We're all in it together.
Yeah, awesome. Good to see you, mate. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, excellent. It's so true that all the things which I don't like about investing in outdoor furniture, I think that David seems to, that they seem to have been tackling from a design perspective. So quickly to our giveaways. This is from Friday. This is from a Father's Day show. As I mentioned, Makita giving away this. It is the blower kit. It's not just the blower, it's the full battery kit as well. So if you haven't got any Makita range at the moment, this starts you off because this battery, remember, and charger will work with their entire range. $400 worth. What you need to do to win this is like our page and tell us your best or worst dad's joke, okay? And I will enjoy reading those out on 4th of September. We'll announce that next week. And then from PDL Schneider Electrics, we were given this, which we were talking about smart tech in the home. This is the Amazon Echo Show 5. Okay, this is the latest in Amazon tech. This is worth $150. And there's a screen which you can interact with as well, of course, the fact it does all the sort of talking and the music, etc. Again, to win this, like our page and tell us what's your dad's favorite color. We're not that interested to know, but we'd like to find out anyway. But really, really good if you could all enter into those two competitions. And again, we'll draw that one on the 4th of September. So finally, our top 10 today, the Tuesday top 10, our top 10 unique playgrounds in the world. And we're going to start in Ireland. And this is known as, let's have a look. Let's see if we can pull up the top 10. This is known as Climbit. Actually, it's Climate probably, but it's spelled Climbit. That is epic. That is awesome. I hope that's not wasted just on children. I hope that anyone can use that. Number 9, we're going to Maryland in the US. Watkins Regional Park. Brilliant. That is superb. Number 8, in Japan. Well, the Japanese know how to build these things. The Wood of Net Pavilion. This is a net. That's fantastic. And one of those holes, apparently, if your child goes down it, you never see them again. That's cool. Number 7, this is in Wales on Plasmadoc, and it's called The Land. I love it, going from the sleek Japanese to the British chaos. Lovely. Number 6, the Lorber Family Playground. This is in Boston. Yeah, epic. Very cool indeed. Number 5, this is in Denmark. Funnily enough, this is the Lego House Playground. Brilliant. And much like everything else, Lego Touch is awesome. Number 4 of the best playgrounds in the world, we're going to the Philippines. This is the Inflatable Island Playground. Yes, excellent. It reminds me of It's a Knockout. At number 3 in Colorado, Sunbird Park. Awesome. At number 2, this is the Cabrajaro Park in British Columbia. And yeah, that's very cool. But the number 1 top kids playground in the world is what? In Alabama, the Lions Park Playscape. It just looks stunning. So I sort of understand why we voted that in as number 1. Isn't that cool? And that's your top 10 today, this Tuesday. We'll look forward to seeing you on Friday. We'll remind you of how you can win those various prizes, and we'll do it all again then. Have a safe week. See you Friday. Bye.